want to take this time to thank the outgoing chairman and vice chair, Bishop Dr. David Oginde and Bishop Joseph Likavo, who was his vice chair, for a wonderful leadership to the evangelical community in Kenya. They have demonstrated through deed and word that they are men of God, they are faithful to the word, and they have generously given towards the work of God in the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. And so we want to thank them. I want to thank Bishop Chair, especially Oginde, as he leaves, and pray that the Lord will use him in his new station at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
I have served as chairman for the last several years, and today I was handing over to a new chairman. And the members elected as new chair, Bishop Philip Kitoto of the Kenya Assemblies of God, to take over the ministry and the baton from myself so that he can lead the ministry into the next level. Assisting him as his vice chair will be Bishop Langat of AGC, who will serve as the vice chair together with Philip Kitoto and the board that has been in place with new members. We want to trust that they are going to take charge of EAK and be at the forefront of guiding this nation so that we can get to the place where we are known as a people of integrity rather than as we have been known before as one of the most corrupt nations in the world.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Like we say on this show, it all depends from where you are watching us from. And what a joyous moment for us here at Hope FM, Hope Media, Hope TV, our fraternity, one of our very own, stepping up. That is, congratulations to Bishop David Oginde, who was transitioned to head as chair of the EACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission. We wish him well, and we know he'll do justice there. So congratulations are in order to you, Bishop Oginde. And speaking of transitions, indeed, it's all about passing the baton. That is the topic for us today. And with us in studio is Madam Irene Kibagendi. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
You have passed the baton.
Yes, I have.
The context of passing the baton from the Evangelical Women Alliance to the Pan-African Christian Women Alliance, stepping up responsibilities at the continental level, how has it been like?
Maybe first let me take this opportunity to congratulate our very own bishop.
Yes.
Bishop David Oginde. He has been so instrumental in the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. And we know that he's going to do great and mighty things in this nation. Even on his new appointment, may he receive my congratulations. Yes, and now back to your question. Thank you for having me. There is the passing on of the baton that we are talking about, and it is happening in our context at the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, where Bishop has transitioned to a different assignment, and I'm also transitioning to a different assignment.
Yes.
And I think when we talk about passing on of the baton, we are looking at transferring responsibility. A baton is something very important because you have been given charge. Within that time, how did you carry yourself? And how are you going to pass on? And who are you going to pass on to? Because in the context of leadership, this in terms of the baton we are talking about is in leadership. And in terms of leadership, you are not just passing on to anybody else. If we go to the analogy of passing on the baton in a race, you don't pass on the baton to the spectators.
Yes.
You pass on the baton to an associate person, somebody who has closely worked with you. And you are confident that as you pass on the baton, they will continue with the race. And there is this, the clip that was on social media that was very funny, where a baton is passed on to somebody and then they start running the opposite direction.
I recall that.
So it's possible that you can pass on a baton to someone who runs the opposite direction. So what I normally see in the race is that the person passing on and the person to whom the baton is being passed on, they are both in the race. They are running. So there is no halt. There is no stopping. And that is what we need to see, the work continue.
Let's get back to the beginning. The Evangelical Women Alliance, I want to put
Yes.
it into context. Was, in a sense, baton passed on to you, or did you create that baton for yourself in the beginning? Because I know you have history there.
Yeah.
And would like to see your experiences, the hits and misses, lessons learned.
Yeah.
And what is your legacy there? So let's get back to the beginning.
That is very true. In my context, at the Evangelical Alliance Women Commission, I actually, no baton was passed to me. I almost started from the scratch. It was not existing. And so my history is that I went out to get women from different denominations. I sold the vision to them. The vision had been sold to me. And you know, we are told visions are not shared. They are sold.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not very easy to call women from different walks of life, from different denominations who are not really coming from my background church, but they are member churches of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. And I sold the vision to them. They believed in the vision. They bought into the vision. They came together, and we were able to come to meet together and chart the way forward. How do we want the Women Commission to look like? And credit to Bishop Oginde, they thought of having the Women Commission because it was not existing. And so they went out and engaged their assembly leaders. Then I was the assembly leader for Sitam Valley Road. And so I was given the task of bringing women together, and we formed a national committee. And even as I leave leadership at that level, I'm leaving able women, women who are able to move on with the vision and move on with our vision of empowering women and providing a platform for interactions of women to interact and engage as on matters concerning the nation, matters concerning our communities, and they are passionate about it. So as I pass on the baton, I did not receive a baton from anyone. And I thank God for the fact that we have come. We are talking about coming on board in 2017, relaunching the ministry in 2021. And one of my visions, or what I had envisioned from the beginning, is to have the counties, the chapter of women formed at the county level. When you have an umbrella body as EAK, you need the grassroots people to be part of it. And how do they get to the national level? How do you cascade your vision to that woman who is in the village? So my vision was to have the county chapters formed. And I can proudly say that we have at least 4 running counties where our chapters have been formed. And so I'm leaving behind a robust and strong women commission at the national level.
And we thank God for you and for that in terms of what you are, in a sense, displaying for us here.
Yeah.
What I'd call a balanced scorecard. Did you get in when you started? Did you have a sense of manifesto that are promises? You know, sometimes you're told in politics, when, I don't know whether yours was elective or nominated or identified or chosen or selected, you will tell us. But for those who go for elective politics, no pun intended, the campaign is in poetry, but the delivery is in prose.
I think in the church setup, this is the only place where people don't campaign for positions. And I can assure you, when you are normally identified for leadership, the first thing that comes to you is, why me? and you start feeling there were other people who are better than you and who could even do more than you. And all the time you go back to yourself and ask God, God, are you sure that I'm the one who is going to take lead in this ministry? So for me, all the appointments I've had, because they have been appointments, I have never felt that I'm sufficient to take the position. And that is unlike the politics. So where you have to come with a manifesto, you have to convince people that you are the one. So in the church setup, it has not been like that for me. Maybe for others, but for me, it has not been like that. So it's when you are appointed, you go and take time, pray, ask God for guidance, and then that's when you start thinking of a strategic plan, as opposed to having a manifesto. Because I think a manifesto is meant to just communicate to people, this is what I want to do for you. So if you elect me as your leader, this is what, and in most cases, more often than not, we don't really see the manifesto rolling out the way it was actually communicated. And that is why a church is a very different environment when it comes to appointments and elections. Even at the point where a leader is being elected in church, you still realize that it is not like the political arena. It's quite different.
And I believe so because it is less about the individual and not so much on the promises, aspirations, lofty as they may seem to be, on tangibles that are earthly in nature. Because really in our space, our destination really, that is where we get the return.
Yes, I think the Bible says that whatever work that we are doing, we are God's workmanship. We were created to do the work that was already ordained beforehand. So when you have that perspective, there's a way you will always humble yourself. And you will not go telling people that I'm the one who is best positioned for this position. Because humility demands that you take the least position. And that is what we were demonstrated by Jesus.
Yes.
That him being equal with God, he did not take it as anything that would be grasped. He obeyed until he went to the cross. And it was not very interesting. So I think the setup of the church, and I would always want to encourage people, especially who would want to come to leadership, that you don't really canvas to get there. And what I have seen in the years I've been in leadership is that those people who always want these positions, in most cases, they are not servants. Yeah, because when you are called to be a leader, you are a servant. And when you are a servant, you are demanded to work for the people. And the contrary is when you become a master. And then people give you a position, then they become subject to you. But the true leadership is when you take the position of a servant and you serve people with humility, not really benefiting. And that, in fact, people wonder, why are you working in church? What benefit do you have? Are you paid? You know, there is always, you know, so people will not run to serve in church because there are not those huge benefits in terms of financial, but the benefits are there in terms of growth and just being a servant of God. God blesses you in many other things that money cannot buy. Yeah.
Indeed, because the Bible tells us to work as unto the Lord in whatever sphere of life that you've been placed in wherever you are. Now, in your journey of leadership, even in the time that you served at the Evangelical Women Alliance, the team around you, because you couldn't have done it alone. besides, in any case, yes, you had the Holy Spirit within you, but how did you identify the team? And what were the team dynamics? What are the hits and misses? What are the challenges?
It was not very difficult for me to identify the team to work with, because when you are an umbrella body, you are a leader of leaders. So the first concept that comes to your mind is that you need women who are leading their churches. And once you identify the person who would be able to have a constituency, in case you needed women. One, at the Evangelical Alliance, we don't have a congregation. So congregation is with the pastors and leaders. And of national importance, when there are those forums where you need people, you will need influential leaders who could go back to their members and mobilize. So for me, it was not very, very difficult, because in every denomination, especially the major ones, I had the women leaders, the women at the top. You go, for example, to KAG, which is a very big church, and it's across the country. But in their structure, you will always find there is the lead person. So this is the person you contact, and then they are the ones to appoint for you the person who will work, who will represent the organization. And in most cases, that person must be very influential, and somebody who will be able to represent her well, if she's not the one who will come on board. But in most cases, those top leaders are the ones who came on board. You go to Baptist, you are given the leader. You go to AIC, I got the leader, the one who leads at the assembly level. And if the churches are quite a number, the one who is at the apex level.
Yes.
So those are the leaders I got, and the pastors' wives, bishops' wives. So in terms of group dynamics, what I've come to learn about the evangelical movement is that there are other movements within within the space. Sometimes you have an event, and this event, you would want all the women to come together and mobilize them and make this voice, maybe a national voice. And then you realize there is still another movement that is mobilizing the same target women that you are expecting. So, and then you realize you're actually pulling different directions. So those are some of the dynamics that you find when you are at the umbrella body. Because the affiliate bodies, there is normally a disconnect. They already have their own programs. They already have their own calendar of events. So it's like you are bringing an additional, an additional program to them. And so it becomes a challenge. But really, we have worked very well with the ladies. When we needed to have events together, they mobilized the ladies. Like you remember the last time we were here, we had a prayer walk.
Yes.
And that was before elections, and we had a very successful prayer walk that called all the women from all walks of life. And we went praying together to the gates in the city. And it's an event that was really embraced by leaders. And actually all the leaders of different evangelical movements, we were able to come together, all of us. And there are many things we've been able to do together. One, there is something I would want to really even advise my successor, that when you call women together, in most cases, when they buy in to the vision, they are denominationless, especially when it's an issue affecting a mother, affecting a wife, affecting you as a woman. They become denominationless. And that is something to leverage on women. And they are able to walk with you. And all they need to do is to buy in to the vision that you are selling to them.
It's interesting you say that, because then, you know, there's all this manner of, and I'm glad there's clarity here
Yes.
in terms of gender. Because in the world today, you know, when you're growing up and when you read in the Bible, we know God created man
Yes.
and woman.
Yes.
The genders are two. But today, you find you're applying, I'm sure, you may have, even in the course of your responsibility, flown out or applied for visas, or etc., and so on. And you find there's another option.
Yeah.
In fact, more than one, more than two,
True.
in terms of gender.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with issues that now would bring confusion? Because the evil one is active and they know. When you go and muddy the waters where the women are, you've destroyed a nation.
Yes.
So how are you fortifying yourself and dealing with the reality of the moment where there is confusion, where even in terms of funding, in terms of support, the benefactors from out there, if you are not aligned to accepting LGBTQ, let's call it for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the position? How are you dealing with it? Because these are matters that are affecting, through the leadership, cascaded into the reality of the congregations at the grassroots.
As we talk about gender, let me start at the evangelical level, where even at the, I just want to talk about now the two only. You find the representation of women is also missing before I go to LGBTQ. And when I started, I became a member of the board of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. I was actually almost the only lady. And if there is anything I have pushed for, is to have women represented at the board level. At the point where decisions are made, let's have the voice of a woman, so that we don't suppress a certain gender.
Yes.
So you find, especially in church today, the top leadership in terms of governance and leadership is the male. And when you look at the body, you know, in the church, women are the majority. Then women are the ones who are actively involved in the ministry, the service. Women are the ones who are teaching our children at Sunday school. Women are the ones who are in the choir. They are the ones who form the choir, although we will have some pockets of men.
Yes.
You look at all the other ministries. In our church, we have counseling ministry, we have ushering ministry. All these ministries, you find that they are women. So when decisions are being made at the top and women are not represented, so already there is a problem.
Yes.
So I want to say that first, as I leave the board, the last time I checked,
Yes.
they have brought on board at least maybe at least 3 or 4 ladies
Good, right.
who will represent the women.
The voice must be heard.
The voice must,
That's
and that one I feel it's a legacy I'm leaving behind. Now, on the issue of LGBTQ, it is quite a serious issue, and it's sad that it's happening in our day. The Evangelical Women Commission, we are about empowering women. And all the levels I have served as a leader, the theme has been women empowerment. And when we talk about women empowerment, I'm not talking about just financial empowerment. I'm talking about capacity building.
wholesome.
It's holistic.
Holistic.
When you empower a woman and you capacity build this woman, who is the primary caregiver of these children, who is involved at the formative stage or stages, who is involved in teaching the Sunday school, this woman who is a nurturer, who is a nurse to the family, if this woman is empowered in terms of information and in terms of capacity, we will have a generation of children who have been, I would say, the right values have been deposited in them. If you ask most people, as even you, if I asked you, who was so influential in your life in making some of the decisions that you made, you will not hesitate to say, my mother.
Certainly. Certainly, yes.
You will always trace somebody's mother in their lives. And I'm not saying that fathers don't have a place. I'm talking about a woman here who knows how to instill the right values and morals and culture in a child. And when we talk, you know, for us in church, the story, the LGBTQ normally just passes. You don't even want to give it so much thought because it's something you have not even figured out. But my take would be, let's empower mostly women, so that we are producing a generation that can be able to stand against all this evil tide. And our position for sure is that we are not for that, and we cannot really be for that. And somebody, I don't know whether it's Museveni who said that until I will lock you until you give birth. So
Yes.
yeah, because from time immemorial, if you read the word of God, you will realize that all the time the enemy has wanted to corrupt the human race. You read Genesis before God destroyed the earth with, with water. There was a generation that was coming up that was corrupted. You realize the time of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes.
There is a generation that was being corrupted. That is when we hear of homosexuality. Now it's emerging again. What do we do about it? Do we keep quiet? No, we cannot keep quiet. But if you cannot speak at the national level, what can you be able to do as an individual? Just use your platform, the one that God has given you, to speak to your children, to speak to your nephews, to speak to whoever is around you. And as the Evangelical Women Alliance, we actually wanted to issue a statement, but we also realized that, as I said, statements had been issued. And that is what we are there for, to ensure that we are making our voice heard on matters that concern us and matters that make our environment or contaminate our environment. And I believe as women, we shall not keep quiet and watch things happen. We are committed to ensuring that our girls are not going that direction. And what I would really encourage people, especially the ones who are listening to me, let's have younger women come on board. Let's not feel, sometimes the young ladies feel like we are too old. As when, they just look at the women ministries and say, women ministries are for married women, women ministries are for older. They normally look at us as very old people. And what we are committed to do at the Women Alliance level is to have every church have or form a women ministry where older women are able to teach the younger women. The responsibility of teaching younger women does not lie on the pastors or elders. It is women teach younger women how to be reverent, how to be homemakers. So if we take our position very seriously, I believe the LGBTQ thing is not going to take roots. And all we need to do is to speak out and to get involved in mentorship, and for these younger ladies to feel attracted to us. I don't know now who will attract the other, but we really need to have them get attracted to us, of which it's not normally very easy, but prayerfully we will make it. So another thing we have been able to do as women is to hold and to institute prayers. We have prayed a lot. Like last year, we were praying twice a month, every other Thursday. So if we are not known for anything else, we are on our knees for our nation, for our children. And that is the only way we are going to succeed in the LGBTQ issue.
Now, in leadership, there's a story to tell in terms of experiences. You have a vision, you have the mandate. On the aspect then of teaching, mentorship, attracting the generational profile so that it becomes attractive. Others, you might find that in leadership, when you all come in at the same time and you have the term limits, it depends, again, on the governance and where you're at, we appreciate. But if you have where there is in the governance that you can only serve a certain defined period and you have a whole lot coming in at the same time, when you now are compliant, you'll find that you're all again exiting at the same time. How would you speak to that, or how did you mitigate against that at the commission that you've now departed?
Yeah, I think the prudent way of governance is when you have a term of office, and I can assure you that there are some organizations you cannot talk about term of office because there are some organizations where leaders would want to lead for life. So I know it's a very emotive topic when you talk about term of office. But in our context, or in my context, where I have served, we've always had term of office. And we normally have succession in terms of you are not leaving the office all at once. There must be institutional memory left behind. And we also look at people who have the DNA of the organization. You don't want to start afresh. You can have new members before they get to understand the organization, before they get to understand the culture of the organization. Then it means it will come to a stop. We talked about passing on the baton. When two of you are running, you cannot stop, then pass on the baton.
You need continuity.
You need continuity. At some point, you actually pass on the baton when both of you are running together.
That's right.
So there is parallel running.
Yes.
And in the organizations that I've served as a leader, I have not found a time when I left the office with the new people, or where the older leaders retired, all of them at the same time. And even having worked in the cooperative setup, where we normally have management and they are elected in the office. And then we have retiring by rotation. So it's also a good concept to learn from. You serve for 3 years, now in the context of the cooperative, and then you are given another opportunity
To renew?
to renew
If you want.
with a new mandate,
Yes.
if you want, and if members want you.
Right.
Because this one is purely democratic. But there is that you cannot leave the office, all of you, at once. And then the ones who come on board who are new, they will still have their term of office, and then the older ones are still serving. And I think that is a very good and important aspect of leadership, where the culture of the organization is not being eroded at once. And if then the ones who come, they had other motives, they find the ones who've already been there, so they are not able to contaminate.
To disrupt, because you can
Even-
get rogue leadership coming
yes,
in.
yes.
That
So,
is possible.
Yeah. So
Yes.
they are the ones who actually align to the culture of the organization.
How would you, and not necessarily because it happened, but you've been a leader, you are a leader, and now you're going up even to the continental level.
Yeah.
What would your advice be when leaders fall? Because leaders affect others, whether they're intentional or even others by observation, and they seem not to meet the bar or have fallen or have slipped. Do you eject them, or how do you rehabilitate? How do you restore them?
Yeah, that is a very critical area of leadership, because as we mentioned, when you become a leader, automatically you become a role model. And people start looking at you, the way you talk, the way you conduct yourself, the way you dress, everything about you. And they want, most of them would even want to copy. So you become very conspicuous. And when, let's say, for example, we are talking about a committee of leaders, and then you have realized that there's one who is erring or one who is going astray. So in my view, that particular person needs to be called. They need to be taken through some journey. You have to speak the truth. You have to tell them this is what is happening and we are not happy about it. It's good to give them an opportunity to make their own presentation. And if you find that this person is not willing to change, then what you can do is first you exit them from leadership, because you also don't want to have a leadership that will make other people feel like, you know, the entire leadership is rogue, as you say. So, but it's not good to at least to again cut them off completely. It's also good to work with them. Only if they are willing. I know there are people who are not willing to go through that restoration process. And especially when they feel like they have been cut off, they will, you know, something will come to their hearts and they feel like, I don't even want anything to do with you people. So in most cases, I've seen leaders not very comfortable with the restoration, especially if they're not willing to repent and turn away. You know, the Bible talks about repenting and turn away. Maybe what you are doing, you don't want to turn away from it. So that's what I've come to learn. But the best thing you can be able to do is to talk to somebody, give them an opportunity to make their own presentation so that you are not the one actually telling them that what they're doing is wrong. Let them also make their own presentation. And then from there you can be able to tell whether this person needs to be restored, whether this person could be restored while they are still in leadership, or whether they need to step aside, and then somebody else can be given the responsibility of working with them.
Because indeed, leadership at times calls for tough decisions being made, and one needs to be prepared.
Yeah, and maybe another thing I've learned, when people look at their leaders commit very bad and very ugly things, and they are not, nothing happens to them, then they wonder, why should I continue being faithful? Why should I continue doing the right thing? If these people are, this is what they're doing, and they're instead they look like they're being rewarded.
Impunity.
And
call it what it is.
Exactly, that is what we call it. That is impunity. They continue in the office. We are rewarding them. They are the same people who are being given the best positions. And we know what they are doing behind the scenes. Then you are discouraging people from being men of integrity. And that is where, even as a nation, we have gone wrong, because we are not able to define what integrity is. Yeah, we've been putting integrity as the main core value in our organizations. But when you go to the real, when they say when the rubber
meets
the road, there is no integrity.
Do we practice? Do we even understand it, or is it just a lofty
We
phrase?
actually don't understand. So you find that at the top, that is where the head gets rotten. And then you don't expect any other part of the body.
Like they say, the fish starts rotting from the head.
Exactly. Yeah, so I would want to encourage, especially leaders of institutions, let's embrace integrity so that it cascades to every employee, every member, and then people will be looking at you as our role model. And when you are the one who is showing the way, and you are the one who is doing the right thing, you are the one who is a woman or a man of integrity, then you are rest assured that your organization will really embrace integrity.
Let's take it to the family level, to also the community level, in different spheres, because we're in this space, in this world together. What would be some of the tips or hints that you can give and say, you know what, this is what I learned, this is my experience, and this is how it can be applied?
The primary area or space we have for learning is at the family level. And as I mentioned earlier, you can be able to trace your values even today from the roots where you were born, what you saw your parents do, what you saw your mother, what you saw your father do. And I think that is where the enemy hits hard, where those values are formed. The enemy knows how to go to the roots. And the advice I would give to women and men who are listening to me is that first and foremost, don't preach what you are not. Don't preach water and you are taking wine. And you are telling your children, this is what I want you to be. And you are not that. This is how I want you to carry yourself. You are not doing that. I want everybody to go to church. You are not even going to church. And you know they watch. So parents, we have a great responsibility. And I would want to really speak to the young parents, especially our daughters. The young parents are now our daughters. When I talk about our daughters, I mean the ones now who are now becoming parents now.
Yes.
And I'm already a grandmother, so I'm talking to really our daughters. That they need time. They need to invest time to be with their children. Their children cannot be brought up by house managers.
Remote control when you're absent.
When you are absent. They need to get actively involved in the life of their children. Because what their children are learning now is what is forming them. And for us to have a strong generation, a generation that will embrace the right morals, we need especially mothers. That is where the mother, who is a primary caregiver, comes in. And if you don't even know what these children are being fed on, then you are failing.
Yeah.
You need to know when your child is sick. You need to know that your child did not sleep well last night, so that we don't just look for money. You can look for that money and your family is going down. So when I think of when as we were born, I'm a village girl. I'm not a town girl. So when I imagine the context in which we were brought up, I remember all the proverbs my mother used to say. Those proverbs, even today, they help me. Because sometimes you could go out there, you play with other children, and then you come home and find maybe something was eaten and you are not there. And then what my mother will tell you is a proverb. And I cannot be able to translate that proverb in English. That if you go visiting other people, you will find people have eaten meat in your home. So,
Yes.
so that one taught you that any other day, you don't want to go very far from home because there is something better happening at home. So there are those, you learn a lot from your parents, especially when you are there, you are together, you are playing around there, you are cooking together. But the context in which we are living is very different now. We are living in an era where children are just watching, social media, everything. And that is what is forming them. And that is why the LGBTQ is not a very big issue to these young people. They find it's like it's very normal. But for us, we don't even figure it out. We don't know what it is. So the advice I would want to give to the young people is to get more involved in bringing up their children. and especially girls, to know that that particular child who is forming between age 1 to 10, you have to be fully involved as a mother. A father has a place, yes, but the primary caregiver is you as the lady. And then when this child grows to teenage, that is where they start now hearing the voices of their fathers. You know, we are in an era where women or girls are saying, I can take care of my children alone. I don't need a father. I don't need, but when that child gets to that level, where they need to hear the voice of a man, they will not listen to you as a mother. They listened to you when they were hungry. They will ask you, Mom, where is food? You know? And that is where your ministry ends. Another ministry is needed. When they get to teenage, they get to, you know, from there, now the father needs to pick up. Even just his presence will make this child stop going wayward.
How do we make leadership attractive to the younger generation so that they step up, as it were, but acknowledging that it's not just about the glitz that seems to go with it, but there are responsibilities that go with it, and there's sacrifice that goes with it, from where you sit and where you're going, so that they don't see leadership positions, those are for the shows, for old women, for married women. Let me eat life, kwanza, before. When I get that stage, then maybe.
That's a very difficult question, because in my journey of leadership, we have struggled in getting young women come on board. Let me just start with Sitam Valley Road when I was a leader. We did so much to have the young women get attracted to us. We even changed the dressing. You know, we could do, what we did is that we assessed what is it that is making the young women not get attracted to us. And sometimes we could just do some interviews. And sometimes they could say, even the dressing, the way you dress, we cannot dress. You know, we cannot put on black and white. I remember the uniform then was black and white. Yeah, black skirt and white blouses. We changed to black dresses just to be able to attract them. And then we could, even at the committee level, you know, the leadership committee level, we could even have divided views that we are not going to do what they're telling us to do.
Yes, of course, yes.
Because they're not even coming. Then we even tried having their own ministry. We started a ministry called the Life Ministry, and we called it for professionals. And our intention was to have a platform where we have given them on their own, but we will be attending.
But they own it. It is them
They
to run,
own
so
it
that you guide.
they run it the way they want. We give them that freedom, that space. Let them run it. And we asked them the best day. They didn't want Saturday, so we went Wednesday. And then with the time, you realize it's not becoming very, very popular. So it has not been very easy. But what I know is that God has also his own ways of dealing with us. We were also young, and God dealt with us. I got saved at 21. If I got saved at 21, God dealt with me. And I believe the same God who dealt with me is also able to meet that 21-year-old, 19-year-old. Because what I've seen with young girls, they grew to another level. They start embrace life as it is. There are those challenges of life that will definitely change you. Life cannot just be all through. So it's not that you are praying for those situations to happen, but God has his own way of creating faith in somebody, relating to the environment and challenges that somebody is going through, and they are able to confess and to proclaim, there is no other life. This is the life I saw with my mother. This is the life she chose. And then when they get challenges, they come to you. And then you are able to tell them, you know what? You are not on the right path. So at some point they come and they confide with you. And that is the time to mentor them. That is the time to open your heart to them. Give them your experiences. Sometimes when you are a leader, people think that your life has always been very smooth. It's also good to open your life to them and share, be vulnerable. Share your life stories. Let them know that you are not the Mrs. Clean. Let them know that you also fell. Let them know that you also, whatever they did, you also did. And then they're able to say, oh, so actually, it's possible. I can also be like so and so. So, but those moments come. But that, the blanket way of having them come on board may not work. But individually, it happens.
And like you say, really, we are just but channels. The work itself is the Holy Spirit. So we need to play our part.
Yeah.
We need to play our part. And when now we know you're stepping up to the continental level, what can we expect from Madam Irene at that level as an ambassador of ours? So we tell people, we know people because we know you.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so first I'm excited that I have taken a different or a higher position in terms of women leadership. Maybe you have heard about Pakwa before.
Yes.
It's the Pakwa before, and if you know Reverend Judy Bogwa,
Yes.
she's the one who was synonymous with the ministry. And when she was the executive director of Pakwa, we didn't have the National Commission. So Pakwa was the commission then, and it was across the continent. Then after Judy Bogwa, we had Reverend Emily Obwaka, who took over from her. From there, we had a lady from Burkina Faso by the name Joanna, and then my immediate predecessor, her name is Fortuna from Burkina Faso. So it's a position that can be occupied by any woman from
Across
in Africa. But their headquarters sit here in Kenya. So it's easier for a Kenyan also because of the headquarters. But what I would want to say is that now that I've been in the Ministry of Women for long, and my desire has always been to see women empowered, and at all the levels I have served with leaders. So this is another platform where women have been provided with a space for interactions, learning from each other, having those engagements on matters concerning the continent now at this level, and matters concerning their nations. So my vision will be first and foremost to see that women who are engaged at the church levels, especially in the evangelical movement, are discipled so that they are also able to make disciples. And currently I'm thinking about who can partner with us to empower women in theological trainings. Women are really willing to serve in church, and sometimes they're not able to capacity build themselves. And you find that there are some areas in the African continent, we are very privileged. In Kenya, women, we are in leadership positions. And we even take leadership at the national level. I can say Kenya, we are very privileged. If you look at the other countries, the women in other countries, you realize there are some countries where you cannot find a woman rising to a certain level.
That's right, yeah.
And what I envision is to ensure that women are rising and they are able to exercise the God-given talents, and they are also able to, the potentials that are already trapped in the woman, they are able to be, unleashed.
Unleashed, yes.
So that they are able to make a difference in their spaces of influence. That is my desire. And if possible, to see women going to theology school. And that is what I'm looking forward to myself. I'm looking forward into retiring in that in that area where I will go to a theology school. I will be trained on making disciples. I will be trained on the word of God. And it's also very sad to see women being vulnerable in cults and occultism. You find women are the ones who are found in such spaces. So can these women be grounded in the word in such a way that they are not moved by any wind or every wind of doctrine? And then when women become stable, I can assure you the Church of Jesus will grow.
And what a discussion it has been. And we're so glad one of our own passing the baton. Baton has been passed on to you. Just as when we began acknowledging one of our very own, the baton being passed on to Bishop Oginde to go to EACC, you're now going to the continental level. And again, like we say, nature bores vacuum.
Yes.
There was no vacuum at the space that you left.
Yes.
Someone else has stepped up, and we're glad you're going, but you're here with us.
Amen.
Because the headquarters is here.
Yes.
We thank God for you. That has been The Leader, and we thank you for the privilege of your time. Let's keep it here. Next week, same time, I'm Edmund Mudibo. God bless.